Hello everyone, welcome back. In the previous video we have seen about Docker images. Today we will understand Docker containers and we will try to do hands-on on all the Docker commands related to containers. We will also understand each and every keyword. We will try to understand the logs and all those stuff. So let us get started. So for that purpose we need one image. So for that I'll go to Docker Hub and we'll take this image called Nginx. If you see, it has all the instructions that are needed to pull the image. So what I'll do, I'll first check if there are any images already. Docker images. So there is one image already, Nginx. So if you don't have that image, right, you can just do docker pull Nginx. So if you do that, Nginx, it will look for local. If it is not there, it will get it from the library. So now we have an image, right? So we will check if there are any containers. Docker ps. So we have one container. So what we'll do is, right, we'll as of now we'll remove it. Docker rm. Okay, we need to stop the container. Docker stop, and we need to remove it. So now let us check what containers we have. So we don't have any containers. Great. So now we have downloaded an image. Now we have to run a container on using that image. So how do we do it? So the first thing you need to understand is the syntax. The syntax is docker run, and you'll have to specify multiple options. The multiple options can be port mapping, host mapping, or it can be giving a name to that container, or it can be anything else. Like what, it has different properties we can assign to that container. So you can do all of those things. So for now what we will do, we will run the container. So I have written docker run, and we have to mention the options. So we will map the port. I'll let you know why we are doing this. We have to map the port and we have to specify the image name and hit enter. So if you do that, you'll get some logs, and just go to browser and check on the port 8080 whether it is accessible. If you see, right, Nginx is accessible, it is up and running. So if we understand right here, whatever the command we have entered here, docker is a command line tool. So we are if you want to run a container, we have to use this keyword called run, and it is an option. -p says that we are mapping a port. Why we are mapping a port? Because container network and host networks are different. If you want to access anything inside the container, you cannot access it directly. You have to route it through the host network, and then you can access it. So what we are doing currently here, this is the container port. So Nginx exposes the port 80, and this is the host port. It can be anything, whatever you want to map, you can map. So we are saying whatever container port is there, we are mapping it to the host port, and if you want to access the container, we can do it using this host port. So that's why we have mentioned this 8080 in the URL. So if you see, we have started a container, we have got the logs, right? So but I can't do anything now because the terminal is occupied with the logs only. If I have to do anything, I'm not getting that option. So what to do now? Like, how do I run it in the background? So to understand that, what we will do, right, we'll open a new terminal. So I'll open a new terminal and I'll show you. So let's say I want to run another container. In the previous video, you might have, if you have gone through, we have discussed that we can create n number of containers for that image, right? So I'm creating a second container, and I'm saying that open this access map this 8081 port to the 80 port of the container, and name is nginx. One more option we will specify. The option is -d. -d stands for detached mode. It means that whatever containers you are running, do it in the background. I don't want my terminal to be occupied with that and block me from doing further operations. So that's why I have mentioned -d. It means that run my container in detached mode. All the logs will not be visible on this terminal, and it will run in the background. So hit enter. So when we do that, it will give some unique ID. It means that container has been started and a unique ID has been assigned to the container. Why have we assigned a unique ID here? It's because this ID will be used in some other commands further wherever we are using docker commands. That's the main reason. It's like a name for every person will have a name. Similarly, every container will have this ID, so that uniquely we can identify. Now let us check. So now we have started a container. Now I want to see what all containers I have. So for that purpose, what I'll do, I'll say docker ps. If I do docker ps, I'll get the list of containers. So docker ps is what is the full form here? Ps means process status. So what all the process running and what is the status. So now container, you have got a list here. If you see, two containers you have. Docker ps, what it does, it will list only the containers which are up and running. It will not list the containers which are stopped. Okay, now if you see, we'll try to understand what exactly it is trying to say here. If you see, we have a container ID. As we already discussed, container ID is a unique ID every docker container has. And image is which image that container has used to start the container. Okay, on top of which container it is, on top of which image it is running the container, that name it has mentioned here. And command, if you see this command, right, to run this container, what command it has used, this image using what command it has started the container. So this is the command it has used. Created, when it is created image, it shows that time, like when this image is created, it says 47 seconds. And status up, uh, as it is created 47 seconds ago, it is up for 46 seconds. Okay, also you'll have, we did right -p 8081 and 80 here. Here 8081 is the host port and 80 is the container port. And if you see, this is the name of a container. We did not give any name here. How we got this name? By default, docker generates a random name, unique name, and gives it to his container if we did not specify any name. So this has got this meaningful name, this has got this name. So this is the purpose of this command. So let's say I want to see other containers also which are stopped. For that purpose, we have to use docker ps -a. If I do that, you will get all the containers which we have stopped. So for that, let us just stop a container. What I'll do, I'll try to stop this. Okay, we have stopped a container. So what is the command to stop a container? In order to stop a container, we have to use docker stop and the ID. You can use either ID or you can use a name. We'll discuss this further. Now let us see docker ps -a. So if you see, the status is exited and it has given the, when it executed 23 seconds ago, and this is the exit code 0. Right now, if we see docker ps, we should not see this container, right? See, only one container we are seeing, and we did not see that container which is exited. Only up and running containers we have seen. So we have downloaded an image, we have started a container, we have map a port to that container, right? Now we will further see different commands. So let us go to our list. We have discussed all of this, what each of these means. Now we have discussed this also. Now to display only container IDs. Okay, let's say you don't want to see all of this, so you want only container ID. Remember this ID, it is 11A. You'll say docker ps hyphen q. So only container ID it will display. You can also do this docker ps hyphen quiet hyphen quiet. So you can use ps hyphen q or ps space hyphen quiet. It will also display the list of IDs of all the containers we have. Okay, let us start one more container just for our purpose. So I will do docker run hyphen p 8085 colon 80 nginx. Okay. Oh, it has occupied the terminal. Now we have to run it in background. So I'm closing it. I'm opening a new terminal. So what we will do, docker. Now if I say docker ps hyphen a, two containers we have 8085 1 and 8080. Now we'll see the same command docker ps hyphen quiet. So we got two containers, right? Now docker ps, let's say we have this, how many containers we have here? We have three containers, right? One container exited and the other two, right? Docker ps, we have two running containers, so two IDs we have for this quiet command. Now let's understand other command. So if we want to see the container which is most recently created, I'll say docker ps hyphen l. So if you see, just now we created this 8085, right? We have mapped this port. This is a very latest one. If you want to see only the latest one, you can say docker ps space hyphen l. Now if you want to run the container in detach mode, I think we already saw that we have to mention this hyphen d. Hyphen d stands for detach here. And next, if we will see, if you see here docker only allocating the name to the container. If let's say I want to add my own name to the container, how do I do? I'll say docker run hyphen p 8086 and I'll say hyphen name Amir and I'll say nginx image name. Okay, again it has started. Oh, it's my bad, so I have to again open. Okay, now I'll have to do docker ps. So we have a latest container and the name whatever we have assigned, the same name is reflecting now. Okay, in this way we can assign a new name to the container. Now port mapping we did. So hyphen p, this flag is used to map ports between host and container. It specifies that port 81 on the host machine should be mapped to port 80 on the container. In the other words, if you access port 81 on the host, it will be redirected to port 80 on the nginx container. Okay, now let's say we have created these containers which are up and running. If I want to stop the container, I'll use the command stop. Two ways I can stop. What I can do, either I can stop using ID. If we stop using ID, container will be stopped, and you will be won't be able to see the container if you run this docker ps command again. Okay, only two we have because we already stopped. Now again, let's say if I have to start the container again, what I have to do, I have to mention the same id. Okay, again if I do docker ps, we have a 3 containers. So for stop only, what we can do, we can stop multiple containers at a time. So let's say I want to stop docker stop. First we'll see if we can stop using this name. Let's say I'm using this name. Okay, it is stopped. Now if you see docker ps, you don't see that Amir you have sad Gagarin, you don't have this confident easily. Okay, now if you want to start again, you can use the same name. It is started. Now if you do docker ps, we have this also. Now if we have to stop multiple containers, so let's say I want to stop 2 containers at a time. So what I'll do, I'll copy the IDs 1 space id 2. Okay, 2 containers have been stopped. Now if I check, only 1 we have. Now if you want to start 2 containers, same thing, you can give the docker start command and 2 container IDs. 2 containers will get started, and if you again do docker ps, you will get all the started containers. Right, we have seen start, stop and restart. What it will do, restart will start the container, stop the container first, and then it will start the container. Okay, I'll say docker ps. Okay, now if I restart, right, so let's say this container I am trying to restart, what it does, it will stop and it will start again. Again if you see docker ps, so you'll get all of this. Right, now we have seen restart also. Let's see further. Stop. Okay, one or more containers we saw, and also we can do like this, we can start, we can stop more than one containers using name also. Let's say I'll say docker stop Amir and this confident easily. So 2 containers we have stopped. If I do docker ps, okay, 1 we have, and in stopped also you can see docker ps -a, see Amir and confident easily have been stopped, exited status. Right, now again we will start. So what I have to do, I have to start again. Yes, okay, now again we'll say docker ps, we have 3 containers running. Now further if we go, we have seen stop, start. Let's say I want to remove this container, what I'll do, permanently I want to remove, so I'll say docker rm, and if I give this container id, see what will happen. It says error response, you cannot remove a running container. Okay, stop the container before attempting removal or force remove. Okay, so here you cannot directly remove a running container because some process is already running. It is very dangerous to remove it. So it's giving a warning to the user saying that please stop the container first if you don't want, and then only you can remove it. So if I have to do it, I have to stop it first. I'll say stop. Right, container is stopped. Now I can remove it. So it is removed. Now if you see docker ps, you will not see that id. See, only 2 you have. We removed this AA15, we don't have. See, only 2 we have. So remove containers we have seen. You can do the same. You can remove 1 or more containers at a time. So let's say you don't want to stop it. but you want to remove the running containers by taking risk. You're just taking a risk and you want to remove it. So these two are running containers. To do that, you have to do docker rm -f. -f stands for forceful, and give this id. You can directly remove it like this. So if I again do docker ps, only one you have, whatever you removed, it's not there. Okay, that way you can do it. Now inspect container. Okay, there is one more interesting command. Let's say I want to get more information about the uh, container, like what which image it has used, which port it is mapped to, which network it is using, and there are a lot of stuff that is there, like what is the IP address. If I want to know all of this, right? So simply what I'll do, I'll copy this ID. You can use name also. I'll first clear it. I'll say docker inspect and container ID. If you do this right, you'll get a lengthy JSON. Okay, we need to understand what this actually is. Okay, we will try to see what all it has given. This is the ID. ID is basically a container ID. If you see right, 649 EDAC8, 649 EDAC800FA. If you see till here, it is a container ID. Okay, created when we have created today only, right? So created date we have, and what is the file that it has used to run this container. So that is the file name. What all arguments it has passed while running that, right? What is the status of the container? It is running currently. It's running. Field value is true, right? It is not paused, it is not restarting. Okay, if you see started and stop date also, finish dot is also, we have how much time it took to run the container, and this is the unique ID of the image, which image it has used to run the container. If you further go down, you'll have name. Name is basically name of the container. Restart count is how many times this uh, container has been restarted. Okay, which driver it has used, what is the platform it is running on, and right, you have other things like port bindings, on which port it is running, and what is the host port. You remember we mapped -p and we mapped the host port colon container port. So that is the host port what it is mentioning here, right? And further if you go down, uh, you have lot of data here to understand, but then we'll see only the important ones. If you see the host name, this is the host name, basically the container ID it has given. You can map the host name also, we will see. And what is the port it is exposing this container. Okay, and if you go down, we'll see what all we have. If you further see what network it is using, so by default every container will use bridge network. So we will discuss separately in another video, a detailed video on the networking concept. So this is a high level overview of the inspect command which we have as part of the container. Right, now further if we go, you can see in this document also I've mentioned everything. And if I want to view the logs of containers, how do we do it? Docker ps, this is the container running. Let's say I want to view the log, docker logs, and I'll give, let's say name, will use container name. So it will display all the logs that this container is generating. Okay, it is useful for debugging purpose. Now if you further go right, we have different commands like resource usage, how much CPU it has consumed, how much memory it has consumed. Let's see that also. I'll say docker stats and this id. So it has given this data. Container id is this, name is this, name of the container, cpu percentage it is utilizing 0, memory usage is 6.9, and limit is this, percentage is utilization percentage 0.18, network IO 936 bytes. Okay, all of these information you can see. Now let's go further. So if you want to see other commands, let's see how do you copy a file from host to Docker container. So let's say I have a file. Okay, let's say this is the file, all Docker commands, you want to copy it. So what you will do, docker cp, and you will mention the host file path. So I'll copy the path. I'll copy the path and I'll use the container ID. Container ID, let's open a new tab and get the container ID. Docker ps. Okay, we have the container ID here. Container ID colon, we will mention the path. I'll say /var/lib. Successfully copied. Okay, if you see the message successfully copied to this location, right? Now if I want to exactly run a command inside container and see whether this file is there or not, how do we do that? So let us see. I'll say docker exec command -it, docker exec -it, and let us see. Okay, docker exec -it container id space, what is the command that you want to run? I want to run ls, and in this location /var/lib. So if you see, we copied this file, all docker commands, and if you see inside the container also we have this file, all docker commands .docx. Okay, here if you want to the main thing you want to observe here is how do you run your commands inside a docker container. This will be helpful definitely for debugging purpose. Let's say you are dockerizing something and you don't know what is happening, whether the files got copied or what is there inside the docker container. You want, in order to make sure, you have to use this command and you can directly run the commands inside docker container and get the data. This is the command which we have run, right? Just understand the syntax. Okay, now further if we go, how do we okay, there is one more. How do we attach terminal to the container? Let's say we saw the detach mode where -d we have used, and in the background container will run and produce logs. Now let's say I want to get the logs back on my terminal. So how do we do it? I'll say docker attach and container id. So container id, if again it is attached and I'm not able to do anything. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll go back to the other terminal. Okay, now we see this command, we will see this command pause. Okay, we have, if you want to pause a container, say this container is running now. Now if I want to pause a container, I can use docker pause and container id, and if you see docker ps, it says paused. And again if you want to unpause, docker unpause and container id. Again if you see docker ps, so it is running. Now let's further go and understand other commands. Let's, already we saw rename we did not see, so let us check that. So let's do docker ps. So it has given a auto generated name, right? I want to give my custom name, so I want to say docker rename container id, or previous name is this. Okay, you have to give old name and new name. I'll say my city. Okay, it is rename. Again, let's do docker ps. See, it was earlier confident easily, we change it to my city. Right now, if we further go, we did rename. How do we pass environment variables? Let's say you are running a docker container and you have some environment variables defined in the docker image. Okay, how do we pass the environment variables? This is a syntax. Basically, you'll have these are the environment variables which are used in MySQL database, like database URL, database other properties will be there that you can pass. And also .env file. Basically, we will see this further in our further videos. Here, if you want to have all your environment properties in some file and you want to send those while running the container, you can do something like this: docker run -env equal to file, and you can mention the file path and the image name. Okay, now if I want to list down all the process running in docker container, how do I do it? Let's say docker top and docker container name. So these are all the processes working inside the docker container. Using the top command we can do that. Restart we saw, right? Wait till a specific container is stopped. Here, let's say you are doing some automation in let's say DevOps, and you have some process that is running, and you want to wait till that process is completely run and then only execute some command. So for that purpose we'll use this wait command. So if let's understand this, it says docker run -d and -f name and container. So what this line will do, it will start a container by giving the name my container. And what we are doing again, container id is equal to what? Here we are filtering, like whichever is the containers already we have, like my container, get the id for that. We are filtering, get the id for that and assign it to this, and we are waiting, docker wait and till this container id is stopped. So docker wait is a blocking command and is typically used in scripting or automation scenarios where you need to wait for a container to complete its execution before proceeding with the next steps. Okay, these are all the commands we saw as part of container. I hope these should be sufficient for you as you go on and work in your daily projects. You learn more and more. And if you know any other commands apart from these, please comment down on this video, and in the further videos we'll see how to write our own docker file, how to run our docker file uh, using docker compose, how to use uh, we will also learn like how to use shell scripting to minimize our efforts. So that's it in this video. We will meet further in the next videos. Thank you.